Welcome to the show, everyone. This is the Voices of Healing podcast. I'm your host, Tina Clark. Today, I have a wonderful guest with us. I am very familiar with Jonathan. He is one of my Reiki students, and he is a Reiki master teacher. So we have Jonathan Richardson here today. He is also a massage therapist and a yoga instructor. So today we discussed a little bit before we started the recording on what we were going to focus on. And we're especially going to focus on the importance of stretching and movement. So welcome to the show, Jonathan.
Hello, my friend. Thank you for having me.
Hey.
We've talked about this for a very long time.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So
I'm glad.
tell the audience a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Okay. Well, yeah, I'm glad we were finally able to put this together. So, a little bit about myself. Yes, a licensed massage therapist for 10 years now. Actually, I made 10 years this month. I began my practice in 2015. Prior to that, no, 10 years, yeah, 10 years into practice. Say about 2 years ago, 2022 or 23, something like that, I can't remember. I became a yoga instructor. I took the course and I passed, and I don't teach as much as I'd like to, but that's okay. The certifications are there, the knowledge is there. I can apply it to my practice as a massage therapist. Um, Prior to all of that, back in 2010, I became a Reiki practitioner. And that's been the journey that pretty much catapulted me into the hands on wellness practices. I did that for my own sake, for my own level of le- for my own uh, sake of healing myself. Been through a lot back then, but what I found fascinating about this journey, it's going to start with Reiki because I was at like a level 2 when I decided to go to school. Reiki is a funny thing, it's intelligent energy. It saw my potential and decided to enhance my awareness. I studied clinical neuromuscular therapy. It's a few levels up um, from what some of the local schools were teaching at the time. They basically would teach you the basics of Swedish. They'll teach you how to pass the MLEX and off you go. I entered the field with several hundred hours more than what South Carolina was requiring. So, and shortly after I started practicing massage, on a professional level, every now and again I would come across a fellow Reiki practitioner, and it was interesting to me because they would, within minutes of working the session, they would ask me, are you practicing? Are you using Reiki during your massage? Back then I was like, oh no, I'm not. I don't think I am. And now, the rabbit hole, I'm thinking, oh, I'm stepping outside of my scope of practice, blah, blah, blah. And it kept happening over and over and over again until I just got to the point where they asked me, are you using Reiki? I'm like, I would answer, no, Reiki's using me right now. So that became a bit of anecdotal answer, just to break the ice, you
Yeah.
know.
So first
And
of all, it's interesting they even knew what Reiki was.
Yeah. Well,
And
they were more than likely they were practitioners anyway, so they were
ah,
sensitive. They
okay.
were very sensitive to the energy. Because every session is started with a deep breath, right? You know, hands on the shoulders. Soften the shoulders, take a deep breath in, exhale, and that's they would just pick up on it like, wow, I feel it when you exhale. Okay, cool. I'm just gonna work with that. I'm gonna work with that. Um, there was something else I was going for there, but oh, um, back in 2016, the company that I worked for then, and I still work for now, um, they rolled out this modality called assisted stretching, and I was already into yoga back then. I got my first taste of the mat back in 2010. 2012 was when I really took off with my own personal practice again, healing myself from uh, from life trauma and things of that nature. And so I was already familiar with stretching. I was already familiar with neuromuscular techniques. And yeah, I went through the program. It was a weekend workshop. And I've applied that to my massage practice since then. So Reiki, movement, passive movement, that's basically the client is on the table. For the most part, allowing me to move their limbs in order to get in order to stretch, the muscles that I'm working on. And even that is a rolling practice because most people just don't really know how to let go. So, as a practitioner, I pretty much have to show them how it feels. I coach them on how to embody the art of letting go, and yeah, it's an art form. You just have to be trusting the process. You have to trust the process in order for that to happen. Um, and stretching the muscles, stretching the body is, man, the benefits of it is, it, I mean, it's almost like I have all the feels, but very little words to quantify how it feels to to just move your body in a way that's healthy, you know, move your body in ways that's going to be of benefit and of service to you as an individual. Um, moving your body to release in order to release, you know. Life will definitely have you hemmed up, you know, shoulder shrug. That it's a common ailment within the human body. It's for me, I see it as a physical manifestation of fight or flight.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. If you ever saw two cats ready to square off on each other, their backs arch, the hair raises on their back because that is a very intense moment for them. And we, as a human population, that is when our stress levels are up, the shoulder shrug. And imagine doing that for hours at a time,
Hmm.
hours and hours at a time, sitting for hours at a time, in any capacity, whether it be work related or particularly work related, lifestyle related. I often tell my clients that our bodies are the victims of our lifestyle and livelihood, you know. So the postures that we hold, just trying to exist as a human species who, we got to pay bills, we have to do all the things that we do just to scrounge up a daily living. It's stressful and it hurts sometimes, a lot of times. So I just enjoy what I do. I really enjoy what I do. The only job description that I would put on myself is I facilitate wellness on an individual level. That's the only thing that I would claim that I do because of the knowledge, the experience that I have with these three particular modalities. The
Yeah.
energy body. Sorry, go ahead.
I think a lot of people are not aware of how their body feels or how their body is responding
Mm-hmm.
to stress throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're not really taught this, unfortunately. And
Mm-mm.
if we were taught it as a young child, we were asked questions. We were probably very in tune with our bodies when we were little, actually,
Mm-hmm.
and became
Mm-hmm.
out of tune later. But there's a awareness there. And I always say that the first step to healing is awareness.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Awareness in the body. Um, Personally, I like to call it bodiness, you know, because awareness is centered in the mind, right? What's the other word? Awareness, mindfulness. That's another thing that
Hmm.
gets tossed out there. Um, in some circles, the word somatic, the word somatics come up, which is popular. Um, to me, it's beginning to it's monetized, which is, I mean, which has its benefits and risks in that. I personally use the term bodiness. It, awareness of what's going on in the body. If you're aware, the moment you become aware that your lower back is killing you because you've been sitting at the same and in the same chair for 3 4 hours at a time, no break, no movement, the pressure from sitting rests right there in the lower back, right? With your legs positioned as they are, eventually, even when you stand up, the quadriceps are still habituated in a contractural state. So what happens is, even when you're standing and walking, your pelvic has this anterior pull, meaning it's tilted forward, and there's less room for the muscles in your lower back to operate because they still have to function. Still have to hold you up. They still have to do all the things, but they just have just a little bit less space to work with. So it's going to sit there, you know, and unless you're aware of it, y- you're just going to accept it as what it is. But when you find yourself on my table, especially in when especially when you're on my table and you're there to be stretched, that way I get to engage with the person a little bit more because Swedish is dope. Don't get me wrong. That it's I have a pretty sick Swedish practice, but for the most part, I'm more at ease when I get to engage with the client, when I get to talk to them,
Hmm.
and when I ask questions and I get feedback. It becomes a different type of session, especially when they're able to allow their limbs to be moved. It, when okay, so imagine someone lying face down. I hold their ankle and raising their foot, and because I'm getting ready to do like a quad stretch, the first thing they do is boom, they want to help, and their leg pops up,
Mhm.
you know. So it takes coaching, it takes time, you know. I'll hold them by the ankle and just raise their ankle up, their knee off the table, and I'll just, you know, I'll just shake their leg a little bit, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, right? And then I'll ask them, do you see how you're holding on to the muscles? Do you see how you're like fighting the movement? And they're like, I didn't realize I was doing that. Okay, let that go for a moment. And I'll shake a little bit more, and then they're just like, oh wow, you know, from that moment on, I know that this is going to be a successful session, because then they're like, when they say, oh, wow, I didn't realize I was doing that. Bang, awareness of the body. So for me, that equates to bodiness. So from that point on, you know, I'll just work through, I'll proceed to go through my routine with them. What I also pick up on is, one is shrugged shoulders, two, the fact that they're sitting all day, three, how often do you spend, how much time do you spend driving? You know, 20 minutes, 20, 30 minutes to and from work. That's not much. Okay. But just think about that. That's about 40 minutes
Mhm.
times five, whatever that equates to. You're in your car for hours. And how do you drive? Do you drive, you know, with your hands like this? No, I lean. I do this, you know, the gangster lean, elbow on the console, hand, you know, 12 o'clock on the steering wheel, or you're, you know, this way.
Mhm.
People, you know, realize how you're spending your time in stillness. You know, are you relaxed, or are you like this, or like this, or however one drives, or however you sit, however you're doing things, pay attention to that.
Or
Um,
I know that when I'm driving and I see something scary or I see a
absolutely,
close call, I start shaking.
absolutely,
My hands
absolutely,
are shaking. I grip
absolutely,
the steering wheel, you know?
absolutely. I'm like that passing every red light. Every
Well,
red
we
light, because I was cut off once a time or two. I was rear-ended. Driving is scary.
Mhm.
You know, 45 miles an hour in an SUV or in a car doesn't feel like much, but when everyone else is around you is doing the same thing, crossing, boom, 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 doing, yeah, every four-way intersection, I have to, I have to check in
Yeah,
and
so
remind myself, yeah.
yeah, I'll tell you a secret. I got into a
Hmm.
car accident when I lived
Hmm.
in Virginia, and it was 2 lights that were, one after the other,
Hmm.
but mine was red and the second one was green.
Uh-oh,
But all I saw was the green.
the green, yeah,
And so these cars were turning and I hit this car. And so to this day, just to focus on the color of the light, I'll
yeah.
be driving and I'll say, it's a green, it's green, it's green. I'll tell myself the color to
Hmm.
make
Hmm.
sure that the light is green.
Yeah, because you have to cope with the past traumas of that one incident. Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's scary. Um, so yeah, coaching people on how to be aware of what they're doing daily is a part of the medicine that I practice. Another postural thing that I notice, my the ins- one of the main instructor in school, she's passed away now. May she rest in peace. Trisha Miller. She, I've always been a people watcher. You know, I'm introverted in a lot of ways. You know, if an occupation of being a fly on the wall was a valid thing, I would be that fly on the wall and make a good living off of it. But she put it in she put it in my thought process to watch how people walk. Okay. And just from watching how people walk, I can a quick assessment on okay, what's bothering them. You know, you and I talked about that a little bit last time we were working together. Um, Lateral rotation of the feet, and I'm just going to demonstrate with my hands, right? Lateral rotation. Just pretend like my hands are your feet. See, normal human gait, your feet should be forward like this as you step. You know, as you step, the feet should be pointed forward. 9 times out of 10, when I watch people walk, their feet are laterally rotated. And believe it or not, there are six, three, nine, minimum 9 muscles that have to contract for that to happen. And it's all within the glutes, the lateral hamstrings, lower back. Okay, so when you habituate contractions in your body, muscle contractions, when you habituate that, the muscles become what's known as overactive because boom, they're just short. The muscle fibers are just like instead of uh 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 instead of the muscle fibers being on slack like this, they're like that, you know, and eventually the muscles tend to stay that way. So you have people with their feet laterally rotated and they're also trying to walk. So now your gait is like this, right? And eventually the feet start to swing outward as you walk, and it kind of replicates a golf club swing.
Hmm.
Okay, so those same 9 muscles that shorten to cause the feet to point out, they're also involved in movement. So now they're doing one thing that they shouldn't, but they also have the responsibility of moving you forward. So that's an overactive group of muscles. Um, and it shows up in the lower back. It shows up there. Eventually, if not treated, the lower back will begin to send what's known as pain referrals up the spine because it has nowhere else to go. And it lands in the shoulders. Or the muscles will begin to pick on the sciatic nerve. And now you have this numbness running down your legs. You know, numbness, tingling, those are the two symptoms of a sciatic nerve impingement. And it may even eventually lead into muscle weakness because the signals aren't firing correctly. You know,
Right.
yeah, it becomes a miscommunication between muscular neural pathways within the muscle fibers. So, and it's just a whole thing that people have to recover from.
Yeah, if your muscles are always tight, they weaken.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, tightness, tight muscles. I hear that a lot. I hear that a lot. Um, excuse me. Tight muscles is a catch-all term. It's not an accurate prognosis of anything going on. It's something that doctors say. It's something that people say, and and unfortunately, it's something that even massage therapists say because some unfortunately choose to just go with the flow of what and there's nothing wrong with saying tight muscles, but a muscle is going to be tight because of a number of things. One, it's overactive, so therefore it's in pain. and then it becomes labeled as a tight muscle. You know, muscles can be overstretched. So when you have forward leaning posture, your shoulders are either shrugged or particularly lean forward, right? There's muscles, the lat dorsi, no, I'm sorry, the rhomboids, traps, those are responsible for muscle retraction. Does that make sense? You have when the shoulders go forward, you have protraction. Retraction is pulling them back. These muscles in between your shoulder blades will be labeled tight because they're overstretched, meaning they're pulled on longer than they like to be. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, there's that labeling. Oh, my traps are just, oh, my shoulders are tight. Oh, I'm holding all my stress there. Uh, whatever. And there's another thing. People claim their pain as if it belongs to them. You know, my stress, my anxiety. Uh, there's another one that I tend to hear a lot. But those are the two ones that my favorite is relaxation doesn't come easy for me. It's like what you say is what you believe. And again, here out comes the coach in me. I'm obligated to tell them in ways that's still within my scope of practice, like your words, how you label yourself. You're claiming anxiety as if it belongs to you. It's out there, yeah, it's there, but the moment you're aware of it, what you're doing, you begin to um, feel better. Your wellness practice begins the moment you acknowledge it's not yours, right?
Right. It's just happening to you right now, or,
Mhm.
you know, but it's not going to happen to you forever. You're not going to feel that forever.
Right. So now's your chance to to change your narrative, you know, claim your own narrative. Yes, stress is there, but I know better. I know once that I'm shrugging my shoulders, okay, let me just drop them.
Hmm.
You know,
Or how
I,
about I'm learning to relax more. I'm
hmm
learning to be a more relaxed person.
hmm absolutely. Whatever mantra you decide to claim, that's the medicine. That's the medicine.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you said earlier about releasing and how important releasing is. So, how does massage and stretching help people and release? And what are they releasing? Because we know it's more than just the muscles,
Mm.
right? Because we're
Mm-hmm.
talking holistically now. This is a holistic podcast.
Okay. Um, so let me get a little bit more geeky and technical. The the central nervous system is on a 24-hour schedule of finding safety, right? Within the muscle fibers or muscle groups, you have all types of categorized neurons. You have thermal receptors, they detect temperature, proprioceptors, they detect balance, and things like that. And anytime there is an instant where, let's just say someone slips, their feet, slides from under them, proprioceptors kick in without you even thinking. Your arms are swinging, you're doing what you have to do to survive that moment. So you're reaching for something, boom, and you gain your balance, right? Thermoreceptors they detect temperature. If you touch something too hot, before you can even say, oh, snap, that's too hot, your arm's already pulled back. You know, those are
Mhm.
that's the nervous system seeking safety. Okay. The base, the the basis of what massage is applied pressure, right? You know, manual input, whatever there's tons of terms that we use, you know, but applied pressure is going to sound the alarm, if I may, for what's called mechanoreceptors. Mechanoreceptors detect pressure. Okay. So if, you know, when I put my hand on my put my fingers on my hand, the pressure that is detected comes from those mechanoreceptors, right? Now, the more pressure I apply, the more they're going to be on alert. Okay, and this is like the science of anatomy and physiology and things that all the stuff that I learned in school. Now, I'm gonna say this: any massage therapist who knows their weight in salt knows to do no harm, and I'm just gonna put that out there. I practice in a way. Okay, I'm because you want to release the muscles through pressure, but not in a way that's going to bring the muscles beyond their capacity to feel pain. We don't have pressure sensory for nothing. Okay. So on a scale of 1 to 10, when a client is on my table and when they're at the tipping point of it being too much, that's where I stop. Right? Because those mechanoreceptors signaling the brain, danger, danger, danger. You know, he's about to hurt me too far. You know, I'm about to do too much. So at that point, with the pressure where it is, I invite them to breathe deep breaths, you know, and, you know, 4 seconds inhalation, 6 to 8 seconds of exhalation. That stimulates the vagus nerve, right? And, you know, the vagus, for those who don't know, the vagus nerve, the wandering nerve, I think it's Latin for vagabond. I could be wrong, but it's the one nerve that travels throughout the entire body and it connects to every neuron within the body. So if you sedate the vagus nerve, that area where we're applying pressure releases, right? Um, the neurons realize it's safe. It's, you know, it's okay to let this stress go. So what happens is, boom, the entire muscle group releases all of the lactic acid that's built up from stress, from trauma, uh, you know, even past life stuff, but I won't speak on that business. I've seen my share of past life things show up on the table. But I can't like explain that to a client who's just there for a relaxation massage. So I just have to, you know, keep it moving. So the release is the release of fear and trauma in a nutshell. Because again, the neuromuscular system connects to the central nervous system, which is seeking safety. You know, this pressure that I'm actually applying isn't real. It was just, you know, excuse my language, some bullshit that I taught myself, my stress, my anxiety. I'm gonna be like this for 8 hours a day because I gotta live, I gotta work. I have all this other stuff going on. So the shoulders are like that, lower back's like this, whatever. And when they breathe, when they exhale, it's almost like not only the part of their body that I'm pressing on releases, I feel it in their entire body. It's almost like I can just see the stress just go, you know? So
Mhm.
that the pressure that I'm applying to that person was perceived as a 6 on their pain tolerance level. Within that 6 second like exhalation, it becomes like a 4, a 3, even a 2. And then they realize, oh, well, that wasn't so bad. And that same technique is applied within stretching because within, and this is, I mean, the human body is so dope. There's what's called muscle spindles, right? If you can imagine, the old school telephone cords, the ones that, went in spiral.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got
I,
tangled.
yeah, and that little thing that the little kink that gets into that you can never get out. I remember as a
Mhm.
kid trying for hours trying to uncoil it. I'm like, man, I got 30 feet of wire. I'm not messing with that. But and I'm not sure I don't remember exactly if one spindle per muscle or one spindle per muscle fiber. And keep in mind, depends on the size of the muscle. There's thousands to tens of thousands individual muscle fibers that shorten to cause contraction, which causes movement, contraction, and then in the opposite. That's how movement, is made. The muscle fibers are shortening and extending to allow movement of the joints, which is how we get around. Um, so when it comes to stretching, what I do is I stimulate the muscle spindles and they detect the muscle being stretched. And again, it's connected to the central nervous system, which is looking for safety, right? So that's why it's important for a client in a assisted or passive stretching capacity. And there's people on two sides of the coin. Well, assisted stretching is different than passive stretching. I lump it all together because it's all basically the client on the table being stretched as opposed to stretching themselves. And and I apply this to myself when I'm doing my yoga practice or I'm just, moving, stretching. I get to a certain point and I'm gonna stop because I feel the stretch. Okay, I'm good. It's good enough right there. But when someone else is doing it, you're what we do is we push the envelope a little bit more, right? So where some people will, and it's interesting because when they're not involved in it, I can tell because I've been doing it for the last, 8, 9 years. I can feel that muscle starting to resist, right? That means it's not only extending, but now the muscle fibers are being pulled apart. So I'll stop and I'll hold it right there and I'll ask them again, the scale of 1 to 10, where are you at right now? 3, 4, 4, 5. Oh, it's about a 4, maybe a 5. Okay, bet. Let's hang out here for a little while. And I just want you to breathe. And I'll guide them through about 3 breath cycles, deep inhalation, long exhalation, and do that. And, then I'll, did you feel the muscles soften? Actually, yeah. So that 4 dropped down to a 2. Okay, so that's how you gain mobility. That's how you're able to stretch more. Now, because if I brought that person immediately to a 5 or 6, they're probably going to want to pick a fight with me. They're not going to like me. So I ease into it, you know. And now that 2, 3, so it's like their muscle, the capacity level went from here to about there. Scale of 1 to 10, now they're able to stretch more. The muscles are released. And again, everything that was held in that particular muscle or muscle group is moving out of there. Because once you manipulate the muscles to release, you're able to the client's able to feel more blood flow through the muscles, right? And all the benefits that blood brings to the surface. Oxygen, plasma, iron, and there's a couple of other uh, blood cells with erythrocytes, some thrombocytes. What all the goodness that blood flow, which is the life force of us, brings to that localized area, and you begin to heal. The endorphins are released, and you feel good a different way. You know,
Okay. So, can you give examples of how massage or stretching would help people overcome certain health issues or struggles in your experience, or can you share some stories?
health issues, injuries, surgeries, stenosis, that's related to the spine, arthritis. What is it called? The degeneration of the spine,
Scoliosis?
scoliosis. That's another one. I did. I'm gonna kick myself once we're done because I can't think of the ankylosis spondylitis. That's a degeneration of cervical spine. I wouldn't stretch them, but I will do some manual manipulation. So, I mean, pick any of those ailments will help, because when the spine is deteriorating, the tendons attached to the muscles go down that path as well. Um, and then it begins to affect the muscles and the movement. I massage doesn't wouldn't necessarily heal or reverse, the effects of arthritis or deterioration, but it will help the client feel better because the tension in the muscles are gone. Howbeit temporary, they come back for more, they practice more, they move more. Um, they're coached on how they posture themselves. Um, low blood pressure. People, high blood pressure is one thing. Low blood pressure, massage does help with that. Why? Because within a session, what we're doing is manipulating the body, the tissue, the fascia, all of that to allow more blood flow. Now, blood flows through the veins and the arteries. Now, if we're pumping blood through the arteries, that means venous return has to happen as well. The blood that has no oxygen has to return to the heart at a faster rate. And therefore, the heart has to palpitate harder to keep the pace. Um, that's another thing that massage therapy can help with.
And
Um,
and here's the secret sauce, and this is what Reiki helps with too, is the more relaxed you are and the less
mhm,
tense you are, the less pain you're going to feel.
absolutely. And you no longer claim the pain as yours, right? It's not your pain. It's not your anxiety. It has something to do with the world that you're in. But the more you release anxiety in your body, the happier you are, or at least the less stressed you are. Let's leave it at that. At minimum, the less stressed you are. And you can actually begin to practice happiness, because
Yeah.
happiness is a practice, right?
Hmm.
It is. It is. Mm-hmm.
So it's the thought management, the awareness, the emotions,
Mm-hmm.
the taking care of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
avoiding stressful situations, and when you're stressed,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledgement of the stress
Yeah. And it
and
becomes embodied, right?
mhm,
It's
and
embodied.
intentionally releasing that too.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. Cool.
Yeah. So, Jonathan, we both live in the same town, Somerville, South Carolina, which
Mhm,
is outside Charleston.
mhm.
Um, so, how can people contact you if they have any questions or want to work with you in the future?
Man, thank you for that. I'm so glad you asked me that. I spent the last several years in recluse and recoiling because, you know, long story short, I set out with a private practice. It was slow. COVID hit. Here we are. So what I'm doing in 2025 is I'm going on another stretch. So you can find me right now on Instagram. Instagram. Inbox me. Find me at House of Therapeutics and Recovery. You'll see the little fella in the with the green shorts, bald head, beard, in the Da Vinci the body painting. It's a pretty cool logo. But yeah, find me there. Um, email. Yeah, private message me. We can any questions, any concerns. Um, the name is pretty cool. House of Therapeutics and Recovery because I practice from my home. Um, the only modality that I'm doing here is stretching, maybe some cupping, rapid tension release. That's with the massage gun. All of that is infused into a single practice. Or if you want a private yoga session, we can do that too.
Great.
Um,
So, all that information will be in the show notes if you want to contact Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan, for being on the show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
thank you so much for doing this. Man, this is thank you. That's all I can really say.
You're welcome.
Okay. All right. Bless.